Welcome back to Beyond the Unknown. I'm Alex Carter.
And I'm Olivia Reyes.
Glad to have you with us as we take another deep dive into history's mysteries.
And today sounds like a pretty big one.
Episode 3 it is. The Kenneth Arnold Encounter, 1947. This is basically the granddaddy of all UFO stories,
Yeah.
what kicked off the whole craze.
I've heard the name, sure, but never got the full story. Like, what makes this one so important?
Well, this report we've got suggests it wasn't just some sighting. It really hit culture hard. Even technology, government stuff, we're still feeling the effects.
Okay, now I am interested. So, take me back to 47. What was the world like?
Think post-World War II America, right? Buzzing with all this new tech, supersonic planes, radar people barely understood it.
A time of progress, yeah, but also, wasn't it tense? Like the Cold War getting started?
Exactly. Everyone's on edge. Espionage, what the other side's got hidden up in the sky.
So, like a mix of wonder and paranoia, right? Excited by tech, but also scared of it.
And into this world steps Kenneth Arnold, our guy.
Hmm?
The interesting thing is, this report says he wasn't some UFO nut. Respected businessman, experienced pilot, total credibility.
Not some, like, wide-eyed dreamer, then. That makes it even weirder. So what happened to him?
June 24th, 47, flying near Mount Rainier, Washington State. Routine stuff for him. Then he sees something, well, out of the ordinary.
All right, spill the beans. What do you see?
9 objects,
Yeah.
all flying in this tight formation like a chain, nothing he'd ever come across before.
9! That's a lot. What did they look like?
Couldn't get a great look at the shapes at first. But the report says what got him was the movement. Blazing fast, unlike anything he knew, estimated their speed around 1,200 miles an hour.
Wait, 1,200 miles per hour? In 1947, nothing flew that fast back then. How do you even figure that out?
Used his knowledge of the land, how long it took him to cross his view, thinking on his feet. But yeah, everyone knew that speed was insane for the time.
So fast-moving, we don't know what they are. This is where flying saucer comes in.
You got it. Arnold said they moved like a saucer skipping across water. That little phrase, from a pilot who had no clue what he was seeing, it became iconic.
Wow. The birth of the legend, huh? So, word gets out. What happens then? People believe him.
Oh, they did. Story blew up. Newspapers all over were running headlines about flying saucers, mystery objects, the whole 9 yards.
I can only imagine. The media back then, they loved a good mystery, especially with all that Cold War tension going on.
Fed right into it. Wasn't just local news. This was tapping into some deep fear. People were ready to believe something wild was happening.
So it's a national thing now. What about the government? They must have been paying attention.
You bet. All these UFO sightings popping up after Arnold put the Air Force in a tough spot. They had to figure out what was going on.
So did they just, like, brush it off?
Nope. The report says they actually launched investigations. Project Sign, they called it, in 48. That's the first of several official attempts to look into UFO reports.
Project Sign. That rings a bell. Wasn't that a precursor to, like, the famous Project Blue Book?
Bingo. Sign turned into Grudge, and then into Blue Book, the one everyone knows. They wanted to separate the real stuff from the fakes, see if UFOs were an actual threat or just, people panicking.
So this one pilot story, it basically kicked off decades of government UFO research.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the fact they took it seriously, that just added to the whole mystery.
Okay, we've talked media, government, but what about Arnold himself? Where does he fit into all this?
Well, he became a bit of a celebrity, which you can imagine.
Mhm.
But bigger picture, his sighting was a turning point. I mean, before June 24th, 1947, flying saucers weren't even a thing.
That's true. He gave a name, a picture to something people couldn't explain, shaped how we see UFOs even now.
And that's what's so wild, right? It's not just a sighting. It's like the birth of a phenomenon. One event that opened the floodgates, similar reports all over the world. Flying saucers were suddenly everywhere.
Like he cracked open our imagination, made us look at the sky differently.
You got it. But let's not forget the details of his report, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just some blurry lights. Speed, altitude, the formation. And he's saying this as a guy who knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, experienced pilot, not just some amateur looking up at the stars. Makes you wonder, did anyone have other explanations for what he saw?
Oh, there were skeptics, of course. Some said maybe it was a mirage, light and weather messing with his eyes. Especially around mountains like Rainier, that can happen.
Good point. But could a mirage really explain the speed, the way they were moving?
That's the debate, right?
Yeah.
Some say maybe he misjudged the speed because of the distance and all, but others say, no way, nothing in nature acts like that.
So the mystery deepens. We've got this unexplained thing, a witness we kind of got to believe, and a whole lot of questions. What happens next?
Well, those questions, we tackle them in part 2. And trust me, things get even more interesting.
All right, listeners, buckle up. We'll be right back with more on the Kenneth Arnold encounter after a quick break.
Back with Beyond the Unknown. And we're deep in the heart of the Kenneth Arnold encounter, the one that made flying saucers famous.
We left off with a real head-scratcher, didn't we? What did Arnold see back in 47? Lots of theories in this report, but no easy answers.
Right, so let's break them down. First thing people wondered, could he have just, mistaken something? He was a pilot, yeah, but could he have seen something normal and thought it was, like, out of this world?
Makes sense to ask. This report mentions mirages, how light and weather can play tricks on you, especially up in the mountains like Rainier, where he was.
Yeah, mirages can make some crazy stuff appear.
Yeah.
And then there's weird cloud formations, lenticular clouds, I think they're called. They can look all smooth and saucer-shaped from the right angle.
Lenticular clouds, I've seen pictures. They do have that classic UFO look, kind of.
Totally. So maybe Arnold, in the moment, sees that, and his mind goes to something more, well, alien.
But didn't he say they were going super fast, those objects? Do clouds move like that?
That's the thing. Some folks say maybe he got the speed wrong because of the distance, the weird way they were flying.
But others are like, no way, nothing natural does that.
Right, and that leads to another big theory. What if it was secret military stuff? Gotta remember, Cold War was in full swing. Maybe Arnold accidentally saw some top secret project, something they really didn't want people knowing about.
That pops up a lot with UFOs, right? Not totally crazy either. Late 40s, tons of new planes being designed, all hush-hush.
Pushing the limits, yeah. Some people think he might have glimpsed a prototype, like a stealth plane or something, being tested out in secret.
Interesting. But if it was secret, wouldn't they just deny it all? Why all these investigations if they were hiding something?
That's where it gets tricky. Some folks think those investigations, like Project Sign and all that, were actually a cover-up. Way to make it look like they're taking UFOs seriously. Well, really, they're just trying to bury anything pointing to their own stuff.
So like a fake out on top of the secret.
Exactly. Conspiracy theory squared. Almost. But hey, some people believe it.
Okay, so we've got mistaken identity, secret projects, but we can't avoid the big one, right? The alien theory.
The one that keeps sci-fi going. All the alien conspiracies. It captures the imagination for sure.
And this report says Arnold himself kind of leaned that way later on, right? Like what he saw just couldn't be from Earth.
He did. But it's interesting. At first, he wasn't so quick to say aliens. Early on, he seemed more like maybe it's some advanced human tech just way beyond what we knew.
So his thinking changed over time. What do you think caused that?
Tough to say. But think about the time. Cold War paranoia and all. People constantly looking up, worried about attack. Maybe aliens, weird as it was, felt less scary than nuclear war.
Makes sense, yeah. In a world that felt like it could end any minute, maybe aliens were almost a distraction, a different kind of fear.
Right. And as more UFO stories came out, the whole alien idea got bigger, right? Became a part of how we talked about things.
So we got our three main explanations. He saw it wrong, it was secret stuff, or it was aliens. Which one's most likely?
That's the million-dollar question. And this report doesn't give us the answer. The Kenneth Arnold encounter, it's a genuine enigma. Fascinating, frustrating all at once.
Part of why we're still talking about it, I guess. Gets at our deepest fears and our wildest hopes. Makes us think about what we don't know, how big the universe really is.
Absolutely. And it's not over, right? We're learning more about UFOs or UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, as they're calling them now, all the time.
Like Arnold's sighting opened this door, and we're still walking through it. Makes you question what the government knows, what's really out there.
It's deeper than just, are there aliens? It's about how we handle the unknown, the stuff that makes us rethink everything.
And that's just part 2, folks. Join us in part 3. We'll get into the legacy of all this.
Right. How the Kenneth Arnold encounter shaped pop culture, government stuff, and the search for answers that's still going on. It's a story with a lot more chapters to go. Welcome back to Beyond the Unknown. We're wrapping up our look at the Kenneth Arnold encounter, but man, the story just keeps going, doesn't it?
It does. We've got the sighting itself, all those theories. Now it's like, okay, what happened after? What kind of mark did this leave on the world?
It's wild to think about. This report, it's not just saying there were a few news articles. It's talking about a whole cultural shift.
Yeah, we mentioned how Arnold basically gave us the words flying saucer, right? Like, that became the image for UFOs, even now.
But it's so much more than that. His sighting, it didn't just make people talk. It, sparked this creative explosion. Suddenly, everyone's thinking about the unknown.
Like he opened a door to all these possibilities and everyone wanted to see what was through it.
The media obviously went crazy. Newspapers, magazines, radio, all that. They were all over the flying saucer thing, feeding the public whatever they could.
Must have been intense. And with all that hype, no wonder it affected like movies and books and stuff.
Well, huge impact on pop culture. Science fiction, which used to be kind of niche, it blew up.
Mhm.
Books, movies, TV shows, you name it. Aliens, spaceships, everywhere.
It's funny, right? One real event, whether it was aliens or not, it gave people so many ideas. A way to picture those ideas, I guess.
Exactly. Before Arnold, you read about alien ships, it was always vague. But after, that disc shape, it was the image. He kind of accidentally made the look of an entire genre.
That's so cool. And it wasn't just stories, right? The report mentions how Arnold's sighting led to those UFO research groups, the ones trying to actually figure things out.
Yeah, METCAP, MUFON, all those dedicated to doing real research, gathering data, all that, not just speculation.
It's amazing one guy's encounter, and it inspires all that. Groups that are still around today.
It's like a good mystery. It really gets under people's skin.
Yeah.
They need answers. Those questions Arnold raised, we're still asking them.
And then there's the government side of things. We talked about those early projects, Sign, Grudge, Blue Book. But that was just the beginning, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, tip of the iceberg. Back then, that was the government basically admitting, okay, UFOs are a thing. They couldn't ignore it, especially with everyone freaking out.
Challenged what they knew, right? Like they're supposed to control the skies. And now this.
And even though they were usually skeptical, there were always those rumors, that secret stuff was going on, deeper investigations we weren't hearing about.
Those whispers about hidden programs, the real truth about UFOs, adds to the whole mystery.
And now, all these years later, those whispers are getting louder. We've got actual proof now that the government was looking into UFOs, or UAPs, a new name, unidentified aerial phenomena.
It's like that door Arnold opened. We're still walking through it. Makes you think, what do they know that we don't? What's actually out there?
Goes way beyond just aliens, doesn't it? It's about how we deal with the stuff we can't explain, the things that shake up our whole view of the world.
And that's the perfect note to end on, I think. The Kenneth Arnold encounter. It wasn't just a one-time thing. It's this ongoing story. We're all part of it now.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It was a spark, and that fire of curiosity, it's still burning. Makes you want to keep searching, keep asking those big questions.
Who knows? Maybe someday we'll actually find those answers. But until then, this has been Beyond the Unknown. Thanks for joining us as we explored, well, the unexplained.